The clinking of silverware against porcelain plates was the only sound that broke the silence in the Sterling family's dining room. Amelia Hayes sat with a straight back at the end of the table, trying to enjoy the chicken soup their housekeeper, Maria, had made, even though her throat felt tight. Across from her, her husband, Mark, was engrossed in his phone, occasionally taking a bite of his food. At the head of the table, his mother, Eleanor Sterling, carved a piece of pot roast with a graceful yet calculating precision. Amelia, Eleanor's voice cut through the silence. Her tone was flat, but as sharp as a razor wrapped in silk. You've been married to Mark for 3 years. When are you going to find a real job? Amelia slowly put down her spoon. This wasn't the first time this question had been thrown at her. She had even memorized the pattern of the conversation that would follow. I do work, Eleanor. From home, Amelia answered calmly, though her heart had begun to beat faster. Eleanor let out a small, condescending laugh. Work from home? What does that even mean? Selling things online? Playing on social media? That's not a job, Amelia. That's a hobby. Arthur Sterling, Amelia's father-in-law, who sat beside Eleanor, nodded in agreement while dabbing his mouth with a napkin. Eleanor's right. You need to think about your future. Mark works hard, and his salary isn't small, but to cover living expenses and save, it would be better if you also contributed with a clear, respectable job. Amelia glanced at Mark, hoping her husband would defend her or at least explain. But Mark's focus remained on his phone, as if he hadn't heard the conversation, or rather, chose not to hear it. I work in the tech industry, Eleanor. Amelia tried to explain again, patiently. It's remote, but it's serious work. I handle major projects that require my full concentration. Eleanor placed her knife and fork down with a little more force than necessary, the sharp clatter making Amelia flinch. Tech? What kind of tech, Amelia? You never tell us the details of this job of yours. You have no office, no uniform, no colleagues who come over or that you meet. How are we supposed to believe you? Mom, Mark finally spoke up, but not to defend her. Mom's just worried. It's natural for parents to be concerned about their children's future. Amelia felt a tightness in her chest. The sentence sounded neutral, but its implication was clear. Mark wasn't refuting his mother's concern, which meant he also doubted her work. You know, Amelia, Eleanor continued, her tone growing more intense. Mark is an economics graduate from an Ivy League university. He works at a multinational corporation as a senior manager. His salary is $150,000 a year. He has a brilliant future ahead of him. She paused, her eyes locking onto Amelia. He should have a partner who is his equal. At the very least, a college graduate, someone with a clear corporate job, who can be brought along to network at important events. Not, Eleanor trailed off, but her gaze finished the sentence perfectly. Not like you. Amelia lowered her head, pretending to focus on the now cold soup in her bowl. Her hand trembled slightly as she lifted her spoon. 3 years. For 3 years, she had heard similar sentences with different variations. For 3 years, she had tried to be patient, tried to prove herself through silent, hard work. Just look at Jessica, your cousin-in-law, Eleanor went on, sipping her warm tea. She's a general practitioner at a major private hospital. Beautiful, smart. Her salary is in the 6 figures. She even helped her husband, Robert, buy a second home in the Hamptons as an investment. Now that's what you call a partner. Or Tiffany, Michael's wife, Arthur added. A lawyer at a top law firm. Every time we have a family gathering, she always brings fascinating insights about business and law. Her parents are entrepreneurs too. Now that's a daughter-in-law to be proud of. Amelia bit her lower lip. The comparisons, always the comparisons. Every time they gathered, Eleanor never forgot to compare her to the other nieces-in-law, as if Amelia were a flawed product that needed constant reminding of its shortcomings. I know I'm not a doctor or a lawyer, Eleanor, Amelia finally spoke, her voice soft but clear. But I also work seriously. My job might be different from your expectations, but I do contribute to this household. Eleanor raised an eyebrow. Contribute what? The household groceries are from Mark's salary. The car payments are from Mark. The mortgage, utilities, internet, everything is from Mark. What do you contribute? Mark finally put down his phone and looked at Amelia with an unreadable expression. Amy, Mom just wants you to have a clear position, so that when we go to family gatherings or my office events, I can introduce you with more confidence. That sentence stung deeper than anything Eleanor had said. Her own husband was ashamed to introduce her. Her own husband felt insecure having a wife like her. Amelia took a deep breath, holding back the tears that were welling up in her eyes. She wouldn't cry here. Not in front of the people who had repeatedly belittled her. "Excuse me, I need to use the restroom." Amelia stood up, trying to keep her voice steady. As she walked away from the dining room, she could still hear Eleanor whispering to Mark. "You have to be firm with her, Mark. 3 years is long enough. If she doesn't want to find a real job, then you need to make a decision for your future." Amelia closed the bathroom door and leaned against the cool, tiled wall. The tears finally fell, but only for a moment. She quickly wiped them away, looking at her reflection in the mirror. A 28-year-old woman with a tired face and glassy eyes stared back. But behind the exhaustion, there was something else. Something they didn't know. Something she had kept secret because it wasn't in her nature to show off or seek validation. In her pocket, her phone vibrated. An email from Mr. Johnson, the head of her company's security division. "Miss Hayes, the security protocol for the event on the 15th is ready. 2 personal bodyguards will be on standby. The vehicle and driver have also been confirmed. Please confirm your departure time." Amelia smiled faintly. The 15th. The big family gathering for her cousin-in-law Daniel's wedding. The event Eleanor had been talking about with extraordinary excitement for the past month. Perhaps it was time they knew who Amelia really was. Not to show off, not for revenge, but to reclaim the dignity that had been trampled on for far too long. She typed a short reply. "Confirmed. I will arrive at 10 a.m. Thank you, Mr. Johnson." Amelia splashed her face with water, adjusted her hijab, and walked out of the bathroom with her head held high. When she returned to the dining room, Eleanor and Arthur had finished eating and moved to the living room. Mark was still at the table, his laptop now open. "What took you so long?" Mark asked without looking up from his screen. "Nothing," Amelia replied, clearing her plates. "Mark, on the 15th, I might arrive separately for Daniel's wedding." Mark frowned. "Why? We can go together. I have something in the morning. I'll come straight from a meeting." "A meeting for what? You work from home." Amelia smiled faintly. "An important meeting. You go ahead with your mom and dad. I'll catch up." Mark shrugged, not particularly concerned. "Fine, whatever. But don't be late. Mom said it's an important event. Lots of VIP guests. Don't embarrass me." "Embarrass him?" There was that phrase again. Amelia didn't reply. She just continued clearing the table, silently counting the days. 10 more days. 10 days until everything changed. The next morning, Amelia sat in her modest home office on the 2nd floor. The 10x12-foot room was the only space in the house that was truly hers. 2 large monitors were set up on a minimalist wooden desk, a high-end laptop open in the middle, and a whiteboard covered in flowcharts and project timelines hung on the wall. Her fingers danced across the keyboard, finishing a presentation for investors from Singapore she would be meeting online with later that afternoon. On the right-hand screen, her company's dashboard displayed real-time data. 203 active employees. 7 ongoing projects in 5 different countries. This month's revenue had already surpassed the target by 30%. Her phone rang. Sarah Chen, CFO, appeared on the screen. "Morning, Sarah," Amelia greeted while still typing. "Morning, Miss Hayes. Sorry to bother you. The financial data for the Q3 report is finalized. Our profit margin is up 12% from last quarter. The investors will be thrilled to hear this." Amelia smiled. "Excellent. Send it to my email. The presentation this afternoon has to be perfect. This is the last funding round before we go all in on regional expansion." "Will do, ma'am." "Oh, and the invitation for the American Technology Entrepreneurs Association Gala Dinner has arrived. They've requested you to be the keynote speaker next month. Check the schedule with Dina. If there's no conflict, confirm it." After hanging up, Amelia leaned back in her chair for a moment. 6 years ago, she had started it all from a tiny 10x10-foot room in a small apartment in Queens. Her initial capital was $50,000 from personal savings and a loan from her best friend. She coded until dawn, pitched to investors who mostly rejected her because she was a young woman with no connections. But she didn't give up. The first client took a chance, then another. Her projects succeeded, her reputation grew, her team expanded. And 5 years later, Innovate Horizons had become one of the most promising tech startups in the United States, with a valuation that stunned many. A knock on the door broke her reverie. "Come in," Amelia said. Mark opened the door, already dressed in a crisp work shirt and slacks. "I'm leaving. Aren't you having breakfast?" "I ate earlier. With your mom downstairs." "Oh, right. Here." Mark handed her a gold-embossed envelope. "The official invitation to Daniel's wedding. Mom wanted you to have it." She said to read the dress code carefully. "It's a big event. Don't wear the wrong thing." Amelia took the invitation and opened it. Thick, premium textured paper with elegant calligraphy. The wedding of Daniel Sterling and Chloe Vander Woodson will be held in the Grand Ballroom of the Ritz-Carlton, New York, Central Park, Saturday, January 15th at 10 a.m. Dress code: formal elegance. Expected guests: 150. "Wow, this is grand," Amelia commented. The bride's family are major real estate developers. They own several malls and apartment buildings in Manhattan. That's why Mom is so excited. A lot of VIPs will be there. Bank directors, entrepreneurs, politicians. Mom said it's a great networking opportunity. Mark sat on the small sofa in the corner of the room, glancing at Amelia's monitor, which was filled with code and data. "What do you actually do all day in front of that screen?" "I see you here from morning till night." Amelia swiveled her chair to face Mark. It was the first time in months her husband had asked about her work with a tone that sounded slightly curious, not dismissive. "I develop systems for my clients, mostly in artificial intelligence and cloud computing for the financial and healthcare sectors. I just finished a project for one of the big private banks, an automated fraud detection system that could save them billions per year." Mark nodded slowly, but his eyes looked vacant. It was clear he didn't really understand, or care. "Oh, I see. Well, I'm off. Don't forget we're going to my parents' house again this evening. Mom wants to discuss preparations for Saturday." After Mark left, Amelia returned her focus to her work. The meeting with the Singaporean investors went smoothly. They were interested in increasing their funding for expansion into Vietnam and Thailand. In the afternoon, she had a conference call with her development team at the Singapore branch to discuss bug fixes for their latest application. At 5 p.m., Amelia got ready to go to her in-laws. She wore a simple white blouse and black trousers, with a gray pashmina hijab. No jewelry except for a simple watch. Her appearance was neat but very low profile. Upon arriving at her in-laws' house in a posh neighborhood in Scarsdale, Eleanor was already waiting in the living room with a stack of wedding magazines and a notepad. "Oh, Amelia, you're here. Come, sit down. We need to discuss this." Eleanor patted the sofa next to her. Amelia sat down politely. Across from her, Arthur was reading the newspaper, occasionally glancing up. "So, this Saturday is a really big deal. Your Uncle Henry confirmed that several bank directors, a commissioner from a real estate company, and even 2 state senators are coming. You understand what I mean, right?" Amelia nodded, though she wasn't sure where this conversation was headed. "You both have to look perfect. Mark, I've already prepared a new suit for him. Imported leather shoes." "You," Eleanor looked Amelia up and down with a critical eye. "Do you have a decent dress?" "I do, Eleanor. I have a few." "What kind?" "This isn't a neighborhood potluck, Amelia. This is the Ritz-Carlton ballroom with 150 high-level guests. I'll wear something appropriate, Eleanor. Don't worry." Eleanor didn't look convinced. "I want to see the dress you're planning to wear first. If it's not okay, we'll buy a new one. I don't want you embarrassing Mark at this important event." Embarrassing Mark. The phrase surfaced again. "And one more thing," Eleanor continued seriously. "At the event, don't talk too much to the important guests. Let Mark handle the networking. You just need to smile and be polite. You're better off chatting with the other nieces-in-law. Jessica and Tiffany will be there. You're all daughters-in-law after all." Amelia bit her tongue, resisting the urge to argue. "Okay, Eleanor." And most importantly, Eleanor stared at her sharply. "If anyone asks what you do for work, don't say anything complicated. Just say you're a freelancer or a homemaker. Don't you dare tell some strange story that makes people ask questions." Arthur added without looking up from his paper, "Eleanor's right. This is for the Sterling family's reputation. We have a name to maintain. Amelia just nodded. In her heart, she was counting down. 4 more days. 4 days until they all learned that the Sterling family reputation they were so proud of was actually standing on a foundation they were unaware of. A foundation they had been stepping on and belittling all this time. 4 days until everything changed. Thursday afternoon, 2 days before Daniel's wedding, Amelia received a call from Dina, her personal assistant. Miss Hayes, final confirmation for Saturday. Mr. Johnson has coordinated with the hotel for VIP vehicle access. They will provide a special parking spot right at the ballroom entrance. Your driver, Mr. Henderson, will be on standby from the morning. Dennis and Walter, your bodyguards, have also been briefed on the security protocol. Amelia sat on her bedroom balcony, sipping coffee. Good. Make sure everything is low profile until I arrive. I don't want any commotion beforehand. Understood, ma'am. Oh, and the dress from Madame Valois' boutique was delivered to your house this afternoon. The courier said it was received by the housekeeper. Okay, thank you, Dina. Have you arranged my meeting with the Japanese investors for Monday? Yes, ma'am. 2 p.m. at the office. They're bringing their legal team to finalize the contract. After the call, Amelia went downstairs. In the living room was a large black box with the logo of a luxury boutique elegantly printed on it. Maria, their housekeeper, was tidying up the room. Miss Hayes, a large package arrived for you. I put it there, Maria pointed. Thank you, Maria. Amelia took the box to her room. Opening it, she revealed a midnight blue dress with handmade gold embroidery, wrapped in premium tissue paper. It was a custom-made gown by her go-to designer, Madame Valois, who typically dressed the wives of politicians and top CEOs. The cut was perfect, elegant but not over the top. Perfect for a formal event, yet still graceful. In a separate box were a limited edition black Hermès Birkin clutch and mid-heel Christian Louboutin shoes. Amelia smiled faintly. Not out of pride for the luxury goods, but because she knew these preparations weren't for showing off. They were to reclaim the self-worth that had been dismissed for so long. Later that evening, Mark came home with a large shopping bag. Mom bought me a new suit, he said. The one I had wasn't formal enough for an event of this caliber, he added, pulling out a charcoal gray suit made of premium fabric. The shoes are new, too. Mom even came along to pick them out. She said my appearance has to be perfect for networking. Amelia just nodded while folding laundry. Are you ready? Is your dress okay? Mark asked, hanging up his new suit. It's ready. Mom texted me again, reminding me to make sure you don't wear anything too simple. This is a high-class event. I know, Mark. Mark looked at Amelia for a moment. You seem really calm. Usually you get a bit nervous before these big family events. Amelia smiled faintly. I'm used to it. Used to the insults, used to being belittled, used to being considered not good enough. The words swirled in her head, but she didn't say them out loud. Friday morning, the day before the event, Eleanor showed up at their house unannounced. Amelia was in her office when she heard the doorbell. Amelia, where are you? Eleanor's voice echoed from downstairs. Amelia came down quickly. What's wrong, Eleanor? You didn't say you were coming. I want to see the dress you're wearing tomorrow. I couldn't sleep last night thinking about it. I'm afraid you'll wear something inappropriate. Without waiting for a response, Eleanor was already heading upstairs to Amelia and Mark's bedroom. Amelia followed, a mix of irritation and amusement washing over her. Which one? Show me, Eleanor commanded. Amelia opened her closet and took out the midnight blue dress, still in its protective plastic. Eleanor examined it meticulously, feeling the fabric, inspecting the embroidery, checking the seams. Her expression changed from one ready to criticize to one of slight surprise. This is actually quite nice. The material is good, the style is elegant. Where did you buy it? A boutique I frequent, Amelia answered curtly. How much was it? Must have been expensive. Did Mark pay for it? Eleanor probed. I bought it myself, Eleanor. Eleanor stared in disbelief. You bought it yourself? With what money? As far as I know, you don't have a steady income. Amelia took a deep breath. From my work, Eleanor. I told you I have a job. That unclear job of yours? A freelancer can make this much? Eleanor still looked skeptical but didn't press further. Well, whatever. The important thing is, you look presentable tomorrow. And don't forget to wear some jewelry. Borrow some from Mark if you don't have any. After Eleanor left, Amelia sat on the edge of her bed. Her phone pinged. A message from Mr. Johnson. Ma'am, final check. Saturday at 9:30 a.m., we will be on standby at the location. The car's engine and exterior have been checked. Mr. Henderson will be in a full formal chauffeur's uniform. The bodyguards will be in standard black suits per executive security protocol. All set. Amelia replied, Perfect. I'll leave the house at 9:15. Estimated arrival at 10. No need to be too early. Let the event begin first. Understood, ma'am. That night at dinner, Mark was visibly excited. I've researched some of the VIP guests who are likely to be there tomorrow. There's Mr. Harrison from a major Wall Street bank, a commissioner from the Westwood Property Group, and several directors from our supplier companies. This is a golden opportunity to expand my network. Arthur, who had joined them for dinner, nodded in agreement. Make the most of it, Mark. Bring plenty of business cards. But remember, don't be too aggressive. Be polite and wait for the right moment. Amelia, you will stay by Mark's side tomorrow. But I'm reminding you again, don't talk much. Let Mark lead the conversation. You just smile and mind your manners, Eleanor instructed. Amelia nodded without comment. Inwardly, she smiled. Tomorrow, all these instructions would become the greatest irony in the Sterling family's life. Tomorrow, they would find out who really needed to mind their manners and who actually had the standing to lead conversations with those VIP guests. Tomorrow, everything would change. And Amelia was ready. Saturday morning, 9 a.m. The Sterling residence in Scarsdale was already bustling. Eleanor was pacing back and forth, ensuring her appearance was flawless. A gold-sequined kebaya-style gown with Swarovski crystal details reflected the light with her every move. A triple-strand diamond necklace adorned her neck, and diamond earrings sparkled from her ears. A classic black Chanel flap bag with a gold chain hung from her arm. Arthur, are you ready? We have to leave by 9:30. I don't want to be late. The groom's family should arrive early, Eleanor called out from in front of the large living room mirror. Arthur came down the stairs in a premium silk shirt paired with a dark suit. I'm ready, dear. Relax. Mark arrived to pick up his parents in his polished black Honda CR-V. He looked sharp in his new charcoal gray suit, a crisp white shirt, a navy silk tie, and newly bought black leather shoes. His hair was neatly combed with gel, his face freshly shaven. His appearance was indeed perfect for an important networking event. Mom, Dad, let's head to the hotel, Mark said. Where's Amelia? Eleanor asked, looking around. She said she had something to do this morning. She's coming separately. She'll meet us at the hotel, Mark replied, opening the car door for his mother. Eleanor frowned. Something to do? Why isn't she coming with us? This is a family event. I don't know, Mom. She didn't give me details, but she promised to be on time. Fine, Eleanor got into the car, slightly annoyed. As long as she's not late and doesn't cause a scene. I'm stressed enough about this event as it is. The drive from Scarsdale to the Ritz-Carlton in Manhattan took about 30 minutes. Saturday morning traffic was light. Upon arriving at the luxurious 50-story hotel, they were greeted by valet parking and ushers who guided them to the ballroom on the third floor. The grand ballroom of the Ritz-Carlton was a magnificent space, with high ceilings adorned with giant crystal chandeliers. The wedding decorations were stunning. Imported white and pink roses, mixed with blue hydrangeas, formed a breathtaking wedding altar. Silk draperies fell gracefully from the ceiling, creating an illusion of being in a palace. Round tables for 150 guests were neatly set with satin tablecloths, fresh floral centerpieces, and gold-plated name cards. A live orchestra was doing a sound check on stage. The scent of flowers and expensive perfume filled the room. Wow, this is magnificent, Arthur commented, looking around. Of course it is. This is Uncle Henry's son's wedding to Evander Woodson. The budget must be in the millions, Eleanor whispered excitedly. Look at the decor. They must have used a top wedding planner. And look at the menu on the table. Catering directly from the hotel with an international chef. The groom's family began to arrive. Uncle Henry and his family greeted them warmly. Other guests started to fill the ballroom. The atmosphere grew livelier with chatter and laughter. By 9:30 a.m., the ballroom was about 70% full. Eleanor met up with the other nieces-in-law who were gathering at one of the family tables. Jessica arrived in a branded pastel pink dress, her hair perfectly blown out, her makeup flawless. "Aunt Eleanor, good morning. You look stunning today." "You look beautiful too, Jessica dear. Where's your husband?" "Robert is parking the car. He'll be up in a minute." Soon after, Tiffany arrived in an emerald green dress, a designer bag, and conspicuous jewelry. "Good morning, Auntie. Sorry, we're a bit late. The traffic was a little heavy." "It's all right. The ceremony hasn't started yet." "Oh, Amelia isn't here yet?" Eleanor glanced at her watch. It was 9:45 a.m. "Not yet. Mark said she texted and is on her way," Mark answered, standing nearby, busy scanning the room for networking targets. "That Amelia, always making me nervous," Eleanor grumbled. Jessica and Tiffany exchanged a faint, meaningful smile. They had often heard Eleanor complain about her daughter-in-law, whom she considered not up to the Sterling family standards. At 10 a.m., the ceremony was about to begin. The MC was on stage doing a final mic check. The groom and his family had gathered in a special area. The VIP guests began to arrive. A few people with a distinct aura were personally welcomed by the groom's family. They were corporate directors, successful entrepreneurs, and some faces often seen in business media. Mark grew more excited. "That's Mr. Harrison, the CEO of the bank I told you about. And that's Mr. Westwood, the commissioner of the Westwood Group. My God, this is a golden opportunity." Eleanor patted her son's shoulder. "Wait for the right moment, Mark. You can approach them during the meal after the ceremony." But their attention was diverted by a murmur coming from the ballroom entrance. Several guests turned with curious gazes. The event organizer whispered to the MC, who suddenly looked both nervous and excited. Something was happening. Eleanor glanced towards the door. "What's going on?" Jessica, being taller, stood on her toes to get a better look. "It looks like a VIP guest is arriving. Look, the ushers are running." The ballroom doors opened wider. Two large men in formal black suits with earpieces walked in first. Their posture and movements indicated they were high-level security professionals. Their eyes scanned the room meticulously, ensuring the situation was secure. The whispers among the guests grew louder. Professional bodyguards. "Who is this important guest?" "Look, there's a luxury car outside." Eleanor, Mark, Arthur, Jessica, Tiffany, and nearly everyone in the ballroom stared curiously at the entrance. And then, a woman stepped in. A midnight blue dress with gold embroidery that draped perfectly over her figure. Christian Louboutin heels that made her steps graceful and confident. An Hermes Birkin clutch in her left hand. A custom-designed diamond necklace that was clearly not off the rack. A silk pashmina hijab styled elegantly with a diamond brooch on the side. Her makeup was natural yet flawless, highlighting her beautiful face without being excessive. But what made 100 pairs of eyes widen was not just her appearance. Through the glass doors of the ballroom, which were still open, a glossy black Rolls-Royce Phantom was clearly visible, parked right at the entrance, with a uniformed chauffeur standing rigidly beside it. The ballroom, which had been buzzing with conversation and music, suddenly fell silent, as if a volume knob had been turned all the way down. Everyone turned. Whispers were everywhere. "A Rolls-Royce Phantom. How much is that car?" "At least $500,000. Who is she?" "Must be from the bride's family." The woman walked calmly past the guests who were looking at her with awe and curiosity. A friendly smile played on her lips. Two bodyguards followed at a professional distance, a few meters behind. Several guests who looked like executives and entrepreneurs bowed respectfully as she passed. Some whispered to each other with a look of recognition. And the woman walked directly towards the Sterling family's table. Eleanor stood up from her chair, her mouth half open, her expression one of disbelief. Arthur took off his reading glasses and rubbed his eyes, making sure he wasn't mistaken. Mark froze, his champagne glass still halfway to his lips. Jessica and Tiffany looked at each other with the same shocked expression. The woman in the midnight blue dress stopped right in front of their table and smiled gently. "Good morning. Sorry I'm late. The meeting with the investors from Singapore ran a bit long this morning." Her voice was soft yet firm, familiar, very familiar. Amelia?" Eleanor almost shouted. Her hand trembled as she held the edge of the table. How did you?" Amelia pulled out a chair and sat down gracefully in the spot reserved for her. The two bodyguards stood professionally, about 15 feet behind her. in a perfect position to observe while still providing privacy. "Why, Eleanor? You look surprised." "I told you I'd be coming straight from my morning appointment," Amelia replied calmly, placing her Hermes clutch on her lap. Mark was still frozen, his eyes darting between Amelia and the glass door where the Rolls-Royce Phantom was still parked majestically, its chauffeur standing at attention. "Amy. That car. Those bodyguards. You." "Oh, right. This is Walter and Dennis." Amelia gestured with her head towards the two large men behind her. "They're my personal security. The company's security protocol requires certain executive levels to have an escort at public events." "Executive? Company?" This time, Eleanor did shout, causing some guests at the next table to turn. She quickly lowered her voice to an intense whisper. "Amelia, what are you talking about? What company?" Before Amelia could answer, a man in glasses wearing a premium executive suit approached their table. His face was familiar, often seen in business publications. It was Mr. Harrison Wright, the CEO of one of the largest Wall Street banks in the country. The man Mark had been so excited to network with just moments ago. "Miss Hayes, what a pleasure to see you here," he greeted her with utmost respect, bowing slightly. His tone was full of deference. "Your company's IPO presentation at the stock exchange yesterday was outstanding. The quarterly growth projections are incredibly impressive. Our corporate division has already approved the financing for the Series C expansion you proposed." Amelia smiled professionally, standing up to shake his hand. "Thank you very much, Mr. Harrison. Your bank's approval is a great help to our expansion timeline. My legal team will follow up on Monday to finalize the documentation." "Of course, Miss Hayes. I'll be waiting." "Oh, and my wife would love to meet you. She's a huge admirer of your story, building a startup from scratch to its current valuation. May I introduce you later?" "Of course, Mr. Harrison. I'd be delighted." Mr. Harrison nodded respectfully one more time before walking away, leaving the Sterling family table in a stunned, deafening silence. Eleanor slumped into her chair, her face pale. Arthur looked as if he had just seen a ghost. Mark was still frozen, his mouth agape. Jessica, who had been smirking condescendingly earlier, was now pale. Tiffany covered her mouth with her hand, her eyes wide. Amelia sat back down calmly, as if what had just happened was an everyday occurrence. She picked up a glass of water and took a small sip. "Mom, Dad, why are you all so quiet? Are you all right?" Amelia asked with an innocent tone that only made the situation more awkward. "Amelia," Mark finally found his voice, which sounded hoarse. "That was Mr. Harrison," he said. "IPO, valuation, you." Amelia placed her glass down slowly. She looked at her husband, then at her in-laws, then at Jessica and Tiffany, who were still in shock. "Oh, it seems I never explained it clearly, did I?" Amelia took a breath. "I am the founder and chief executive officer of Innovate Horizons. We are a tech startup focused on artificial intelligence and cloud computing for the financial and healthcare sectors. Our headquarters is in Manhattan, with branch offices in Singapore, Manila, and Bangkok. We currently have 203 employees." Her voice was clear, calm, and professional. "We just had our initial public offering, or IPO, on the New York Stock Exchange last month. The company's current valuation is around $500 million. Next year's revenue is projected to increase by 40%, with our expansion into Vietnam and Thailand, which is currently in progress." Silence. No one spoke. Even the orchestral music from the stage seemed to come from another world. Arthur was the first to find his words. $500 million? "Yes, Dad. That was the valuation at the time of the IPO. Of course, the market value can fluctuate depending on stock performance, but so far, the trend has been positive, thankfully." Eleanor was trembling. But all this time, you said you worked from home. You were just on your laptop, we thought. We thought you were just a small-time freelancer." Jessica unconsciously finished Eleanor's sentence in a near whisper, "or selling things online." Amelia looked at Jessica with an unreadable expression. "Yes, I know that's what you all thought. Because in 3 years, not a single one of you ever seriously asked about my work. Every time I mentioned I worked in tech, the reaction was always dismissive." She turned her gaze to Eleanor. "You always said I wasn't good enough for Mark. You always compared me to Jessica, the doctor, and Tiffany, the lawyer. You always said I was just a regular housewife who contributed nothing." Amelia's voice remained calm. There was no anger or vengeance in her tone, just a statement of fact. Meanwhile, I was meeting with investors from Japan, Korea, and Singapore. I was developing systems now used by 15 Fortune 500 companies worldwide. I was managing a team of 200 people with a multi-million-dollar monthly operating budget. I did it all from home because I'm the founder. I can set my own schedule. I don't need to go to the office every day if I can be productive from anywhere. Mark swallowed hard. Sweat began to form on his forehead despite the cool, air-conditioned room. "Amy, why didn't you ever tell us? Why did you let us?" Amelia looked at her husband with a gaze that made Mark want to look away. "Why should I have to prove myself to people who didn't even respect me as a human being? Mark, I told you many times that I had serious work, but you never believed me. You never asked for details. You were too busy judging and belittling. And you, Mark," Amelia continued, her voice lower but more piercing, "in our 3 years of marriage, you never once defended me when your mother insulted me. Sometimes, you even joined in. You said you were embarrassed to introduce me. You said I made you feel insecure." Mark couldn't answer. His throat felt tight. The atmosphere at the Sterling family table became incredibly tense. Nearby guests began to notice that something was happening. Although they couldn't hear the conversation clearly, what they saw was an elegant woman with bodyguards, who was clearly not an ordinary person, speaking seriously with a family that looked utterly shocked. Tiffany, who had been silent all this time, finally spoke, her voice trembling. "Amelia, I'm sorry. We didn't know. We really didn't know. You didn't know who I was." Amelia looked at Tiffany with a sharp but emotionless gaze. "Or you didn't want to know, because you had already judged me based on appearances and assumptions." Tiffany looked down, unable to respond. Eleanor, who was beginning to recover from her shock, tried to reach for Amelia's hand. "Amelia, dear. Mom, I didn't mean to." Amelia gently but firmly pulled her hand away. "Didn't mean to what, Eleanor? Didn't mean to insult me repeatedly? Didn't mean to say I wasn't worthy of being Mark's wife? Didn't mean to compare me to other daughters-in-law in front of everyone?" Eleanor was silent. Tears began to well up in her eyes. For the first time in 3 years, the woman who had always been arrogant and confident looked broken. "Just yesterday, you told Jessica and Tiffany that I was just a small-time freelancer. You said, 'You two are lucky to have educated and successful daughters-in-law, unlike Mark, who got a wife who's—' Well, you know." Jessica and Tiffany bowed their heads even lower. They remembered that conversation. They had even chuckled along at the time. Arthur, who was usually calm, now looked extremely uncomfortable. "Amelia, I apologize. We were mistaken. We didn't know you were so important." "So important," Amelia repeated, her tone making Arthur realize his mistake. "So if I weren't the CEO of a major company, if I were just a regular housewife, would it be okay to be insulted like that, Dad? Would it be okay to be belittled and compared?" Arthur couldn't answer. He realized his logic had been flawed from the start. Just then, a beautiful woman in her 40s wearing an elegant dress approached their table. She was the wife of one of the major real estate commissioners who was a VIP guest. "Miss Hayes, I'm Margaret Thompson. My husband is Richard Thompson, a commissioner at Westwood Property Group." Amelia immediately stood up with a professional smile, as if the tense conversation had never happened. "Mrs. Thompson, it's a pleasure to meet you. Richard has told me so much about you. I've been wanting to meet you in person for a long time. Your story of building Innovate Horizons is so inspiring, especially as a woman in a male-dominated industry. It's extraordinary." "Thank you, Mrs. Thompson. There's still so much to learn. My husband would like to discuss a possible technology collaboration for our property management systems. Would it be all right if we chatted for a bit after the ceremony?" "Of course, Mrs. Thompson. I would be delighted. Coincidentally, we're also developing a special module for the property sector." After Mrs. Thompson left, Amelia sat back down. All eyes at the table were still on her, a mixture of admiration, amazement, and shame. Mark swallowed. As a senior manager with a $150,000 salary, he had always felt superior. But now he realized that the wife he had belittled all this time owned a company with a $500 million valuation. His wife's income was probably 50 times his own. She met with bank directors and company commissioners not to network, but because they needed her. "Amy, Mark's voice was hoarse. I really didn't know. Why didn't you ever tell me clearly? Amelia looked at her husband with a tired expression. I did tell you, Mark. Many times. But you never wanted to listen. Every time I started talking about my work, you were busy with your phone or would change the subject. You never asked for details, never showed any interest. You even often said my job was unclear. But why didn't you tell me you were a CEO? Why didn't you say your company was that big? Because I shouldn't need validation from the person who should have trusted and supported me unconditionally. Mark, you're my husband. You should have respected me for who I am, not because of a title or how big my company is. That sentence hit Mark like a physical blow. He fell silent. The official wedding ceremony began. The orchestra played. The MC opened the event with fanfare. The bride and groom entered the ballroom to the applause of all the guests. The vows were exchanged solemnly. However, at the Sterling family table, the atmosphere remained tense, even as they tried to smile to maintain their image. When the meal was served, a lavish spread of appetizers, soup, main courses, and dessert of five-star hotel quality was presented. But no one at the Sterling family table could enjoy the food, especially Eleanor, who barely touched her plate. The event photographer went around taking pictures. When he approached the Sterling family's table, he recognized Amelia. Miss Hayes, may I take a picture? This is for a media feature. Your presence at this event has attracted quite a bit of attention. Amelia smiled graciously. Of course. But perhaps just a family photo. This is a wedding, after all, not a business event. The photographer nodded and took several photos of the Sterling family with Amelia in the center. The irony was palpable. The woman who had been insulted and belittled for 3 years was now the center of attention. After the photographer left, Eleanor whispered in a trembling voice, Amelia, I'm truly sorry. I was wrong. I didn't know you were this incredible. Eleanor, Amelia cut in gently but firmly. The problem isn't that you didn't know I was incredible. The problem is that you insulted and belittled me as a human being. What if I were just a regular housewife with no job? Would I have deserved to be treated that way? Eleanor couldn't answer. The question made her realize how toxic her behavior had been. Respect isn't about titles or money, Eleanor. Respect is about valuing another person as a human being with their own dignity. I shouldn't have to be a CEO to deserve to be treated with respect as a daughter-in-law and a wife. Amelia's words echoed in the minds of everyone at the table. Jessica wiped away a tear that had started to fall. Tiffany looked down, deeply ashamed of her past behavior. Arthur took off his glasses and rubbed his face with a trembling hand. And Mark, the man who for 3 years had felt superior and ashamed of his own wife, now sat with his head bowed, realizing he had just lost something far more valuable than a salary or a title. The trust and respect of a wife who turned out to be far more successful and brilliant than he could have imagined. The reception continued with the newlyweds' appearance and a photo session with the extended family. The ballroom was lively with laughter and congratulations from the guests. But at the Sterling family table, the atmosphere was completely different. They smiled for the photos, but the smiles were stiff and forced. When the extended family photo session was over, Uncle Henry, the groom's father and Arthur's younger brother, approached their table. The 60-year-old man with graying hair looked excited. Eleanor, Arthur, do you know who's here at Daniel's wedding today? He asked enthusiastically. Amelia Hayes, the founder of Innovate Horizons, which just went public. An incredible young woman. The business media is all over her. Even some of the VIP guests are more interested in taking photos with her than with the bride and groom. Uncle Henry laughed, oblivious to the increasingly pale faces of Eleanor and Arthur. The bride was so excited to ask for a photo with her. Chloe said she's a huge admirer of Amelia's story of building a startup from scratch. We're so lucky she could come to our event. It instantly raised its prestige. Arthur stammered, Henry, that Amelia you're talking about. Yes, that's her, sitting right there. Uncle Henry pointed to where Amelia was chatting with several VIP guests who had approached her. Beautiful, isn't she? Young, successful, and humble, according to Mr. Harrison. She's one of the youngest CEOs to successfully take a company public with such a fantastic valuation. The future of American tech is in the hands of people like her. Uncle Henry clapped Arthur on the shoulder. You and Mark should get to know her. Who knows, you might be able to network. It's a rare opportunity to meet an executive of her caliber at a family event. Eleanor, unable to bear it any longer, spoke in a trembling voice. "Uncle, that's Amelia, our daughter-in-law, Mark's wife." Uncle Henry froze, his eyes widening. "What did you say?" "Amelia Hayes is Mark's wife." "Our daughter-in-law," Arthur repeated in a low, ashamed voice. Uncle Henry was silent for a moment, processing the information. Then his expression changed to a mixture of shock and disappointment. "Your daughter-in-law? But all this time you never mentioned that Amelia was. I thought your daughter-in-law was." He didn't finish his sentence, but the implication was clear. For years, Eleanor had complained about her daughter-in-law at various family gatherings, saying Amelia was not her equal, had no clear job, and was nothing like the other successful nieces-in-law. "You didn't know who your own daughter-in-law was?" Uncle Henry asked in disbelief. Eleanor looked down, unable to answer, a profound sense of shame enveloping her. Uncle Henry shook his head slowly. "Eleanor, Arthur, I don't know what to say. You have an extraordinary daughter-in-law, but—" He didn't continue. He just patted Arthur's shoulder one last time before walking away, leaving behind a painful silence. Meanwhile, on the other side of the ballroom, Amelia was speaking with several journalists from business media outlets who had been invited to cover the grand wedding. They were more interested in Amelia's presence than the wedding itself. "Miss Hayes, may we ask a few questions for next week's article?" A female journalist from a top business magazine asked. "Of course, but please be brief. This is a wedding, not a press conference," Amelia replied graciously. "After the successful IPO, what are Innovate Horizons' major plans for the future?" "We will be expanding into 3 Southeast Asian countries within the next 6 months: Vietnam, Thailand, and Myanmar. We are also developing a new product for the education sector, which will launch in the second quarter of next year. As a woman in the male-dominated tech industry, what has been your biggest challenge?" Amelia smiled faintly. "The biggest challenge has been people's expectations and assumptions. Many underestimate women, thinking we are not capable of handling technical matters or high-level leadership. But I believe that results speak louder than assumptions." The words carried over to the Sterling family's table not far away. Mark felt the sentence like a sharp slap across his face. After the journalists left, the newlyweds approached Amelia with wide smiles. Chloe, the bride, looked incredibly excited. "Amelia, thank you so much for coming. I'm a huge fan. I've read all the articles about you. Your story is so inspiring," Chloe said enthusiastically. Amelia smiled warmly. "Thank you, Chloe. Congratulations on your wedding. May you have a long and happy life together. Can we take a picture together? I want to post it on social media. I'm so proud to know you." "Of course." They took a photo together with Daniel, the groom, who also looked starstruck. A professional photographer captured several shots. A moment that should have been the highlight for the newlyweds became a moment where a guest outshone them. From a distance, Eleanor watched it all, tears starting to stream down her cheeks, her makeup beginning to run. She remembered all the cruel words she had ever said to Amelia. All the insults, all the comparisons, all the condescending attitudes. "Oh God, what have I done?" she whispered softly. Arthur put an arm around his trembling wife's shoulder. He himself felt a deep sense of regret. As parents, they should have been wiser, more respectful, and valued others without considering their status or job. Jessica and Tiffany, who had been silent all this time, finally excused themselves from the table. They were too ashamed to stay any longer. Before leaving, Jessica approached Amelia briefly. "Amelia, I'm so sorry for my behavior all this time. I was wrong. I judged you without really knowing you." "Please forgive me," Jessica said with teary eyes. Dinda nodded, holding back tears. "I'm sorry too, Amelia. I'm so ashamed of myself." Amelia looked at them both with a softened gaze. "I'm not angry with you. You just went along with the wrong assumptions. But this is a lesson for all of us. Never judge a person by their appearance or by what others say. Get to know them directly. Ask them directly. Respect them as human beings." Jessica and Tiffany nodded and left with their heads bowed. The event moved into the entertainment portion. A famous singer hired for the occasion began to perform on stage. Guests enjoyed the music while dining and socializing. But the mood at the Sterling family table remained heavy. Mark finally stood up and approached Amelia, who was alone for a moment while her bodyguards got her a drink. Amy, can we talk outside for a minute? Mark asked in a low voice. Amelia looked at her husband for a moment, then nodded. They walked out of the ballroom to a quieter lounge area in the hotel. There, with a view of the New York City skyline from a large glass window, Mark finally let out everything he was feeling. I'm an idiot, Amy. I'm such an idiot. I'm so ashamed of myself, Mark's voice trembled. For 3 years, I felt superior. I thought I was the successful one, the one working hard, the one providing for our family. But all along, his tears fell. For the first time in their marriage, Amelia saw Mark cry. All along, you were far more successful than me. You built something incredible. And I just belittled you. I never defended you when Mom insulted you. I even joined in. I said I was ashamed of you. Oh God, Amy, I don't deserve to be your husband. Amelia stood by the large glass window, looking out at the towering skyscrapers of New York City. The afternoon light was beginning to turn a soft red on the western horizon. Behind her, Mark stood with tears streaming down his face, waiting for a response from the wife he had belittled for 3 years. Mark, Amelia finally spoke without turning around. Her voice was calm but felt distant. I never asked you to be impressed by my success. I never needed you to be proud because I'm a CEO or because my company is big. What I needed from you was simple: respect, trust, and your defense when I was being insulted. She turned to face Mark. Her eyes were glassy, but no tears fell. But you failed to give me any of that, Mark. You let your mother insult me time and time again. You stayed silent when I was compared to other nieces-in-law. You even joined in with the doubting and belittling. You said you weren't confident introducing me. You said I embarrassed you. Mark shook his head vehemently, wiping his tears. I was wrong, Amy. I know I was wrong. I'm so sorry. I beg you. An apology can't erase 3 years of hurt, Mark. Amelia cut in gently but firmly. Every night, I went to sleep feeling inadequate. Every time I went to your parents' house, I had to mentally prepare myself for insults. Every family event, I was the butt of the joke. And you, the person who was supposed to be my shield, became one of the people who hurt me. I'll change, Amy. I promise. From now on, I'll defend you. I'll tell Mom to stop. You should have done that from the beginning, Mark. Not after you found out I own a large company. Not after you saw other people respecting me. You should have done it because I'm your wife. Period. Not because I have a title or money. That sentence silenced Mark completely. He realized its truth. If today Amelia had turned out to be just a regular housewife with no big job, would he be apologizing? Would he change? Amelia took a deep breath. I need time, Mark. I need to rethink our marriage. I can't just forgive and move on as if nothing happened. Too much has been broken. Amy, don't decide now. Please. Give me a chance to prove myself. Give me time to fix everything. Mark pleaded desperately. That's what I'm saying. I need time. Not for you to prove anything, but for me to heal the wounds that are far too deep. They returned to the ballroom, a palpable distance between them, even as they walked side by side. As they entered, Eleanor immediately approached them. Her face was swollen, her makeup completely ruined. Amelia, dear. Eleanor took Amelia's hand, which was trembling. I am so sorry. I am truly sorry for everything I've said and done. I was wrong. I was so wrong. Amelia didn't pull her hand away this time. She let Eleanor hold her cold hand. I didn't know you were so incredible, I thought. I misjudged you. I regret it, Amelia. I regret it so much, Eleanor began to sob. Eleanor, Amelia said softly. As I told Mark just now, the issue isn't that you didn't know I was incredible. The issue is how you treated me as a human being. What if I were just a regular housewife? Would I have deserved to be treated that way? Eleanor shook her head, crying. No, you wouldn't have. I was wrong. I was too focused on status and prestige. I forgot that respect isn't about titles or money. Arthur, standing behind Eleanor, also spoke up, his voice hoarse. Amelia, I apologize as well. I was also at fault. I stayed silent when Eleanor was unfair to you. I also belittled you. I'm ashamed of myself. Amelia looked at her 2 in-laws, who now seemed so fragile, a stark contrast to their usual confident and arrogant demeanor. I can't say that I can immediately forgive and forget everything. Too much has happened in these 3 years. But I will try, slowly, with time, Amelia finally said. Eleanor nodded, sobbing. Thank you, Amelia. Thank you for not leaving us right away, even though we've hurt you so much. The wedding reception ended around 3 p.m. Guests began to leave. Amelia also prepared to go home. Her 2 bodyguards were on standby. Her personal chauffeur, Mr. Henderson, had already started the Rolls-Royce Phantom at the entrance. Before leaving, the newlyweds, Chloe and Daniel, came over again to say thank you. Amelia, thank you so much for coming. Your presence made our wedding so much more memorable. Some guests even said this was the wedding that Amelia Hayes attended, Chloe said sincerely. Amelia smiled warmly. You're welcome. Once again, congratulations. I wish you both a lifetime of happiness and mutual respect, no matter the circumstances. The emphasis on the last few words was deeply felt. Chloe and Daniel nodded in understanding. As Amelia walked towards the exit, many guests greeted her and said their goodbyes respectfully. Some gave her their business cards, hoping to network. Amelia accepted them graciously and professionally. Mark, Eleanor, and Arthur followed behind. They watched how people respected Amelia, how the VIP guests they had been so excited to meet were more interested in speaking with her. At the entrance, the gleaming black Rolls-Royce Phantom was waiting. Mr. Henderson opened the door politely. Dennis and Walter had already entered the escort car behind it. Before getting in, Amelia turned to look at the Sterling family standing a few feet away. I'm heading home now. You all take care on the way, she said, her tone softer than before. Eleanor nodded, holding back tears. Mark raised his hand as if to reach for Amelia, but then lowered it, realizing he had no right to do so now. Amelia got into the car. The door closed with the soft, distinct sound of a luxury vehicle. Mr. Henderson returned to the driver's seat, and the car slowly pulled away from the Ritz-Carlton. Eleanor, Arthur, and Mark stood there, watching the luxury car disappear into the distance. Around them, other guests who were also leaving whispered among themselves while looking at them. Is that Miss Hayes's family? Yes, her husband and in-laws. They're so lucky to have someone like Miss Hayes in their family. The whispers were clearly audible, a painful irony. People thought they were lucky, but they had just realized how foolish they had been all this time. Inside the car, Amelia leaned back against the plush premium leather seat. Her eyes gazed out the window, watching the buildings of New York City go by. Her tears finally fell. Not tears of sadness, but tears of relief. Relief that she no longer had to hide. Relief that her dignity, which had been trampled on for 3 years, was finally restored. But there was also sadness. Sadness that it took a moment like this to make her family realize their mistake. Sadness that the respect she received today was not because she was valued as a human being, but because she had a title and money. Ma'am, straight home, or would you like to stop somewhere first? Mr. Henderson asked from the front. Straight home, please, Mr. Henderson. I'm tired. Tired not physically, but emotionally. 3 years of holding in the pain, the insults, restraining herself from exploding. Today, it all came out. And although there was satisfaction in seeing those who had belittled her finally realize their error, there was also an emptiness. Because Amelia knew that apologies couldn't erase wounds, regret couldn't turn back time, and trust that had been broken would take a very long time to rebuild, if it could be rebuilt at all.